Hi, I'm Steph, and today I am going to practice capsizing in my Oru kayak. Now, I have done this once before 1 year ago, and I didn't have any safety gear with me, and it was difficult. It was a challenge to actually fall out of my kayak and no, it wasn't a challenge to fall out. It was a challenge to get back in the kayak. I fell out, no problem. No problem, I fell out of the kayak. But today I want to try it again 1 year later, and I have safety gear this time. So the first thing I have is my float bags, and I put those in the bow and stern of my boat, and I put that in right before I started. And so those should allow my kayak to be a little bit more, float a little bit more when I fall out. And then next I have a bilge pump, and that will help me to pump out the water when I fall out of the kayak before I get back in. And then also I have my paddle float, and so I might try that to actually help me leverage myself back in the kayak. And then I also have my paddle leash, so my paddle won't get away from me. So I have a lot of safety gear this time. And now this time I also have the knowledge of actually falling out of my kayak in real life. Now, very recently, a couple weeks ago, I actually fell out of a hardshell kayak for the first time in the ocean. And I am still very salty about the fact that I did not get footage of it. Just a little salty. Also, I'm salty because it was the ocean and it was salt water. But anyways, so what I learned from all those experiences is make your first attempt your best attempt. That is what I have learned, because the more times you attempt to get back in, the tighter you're gonna get and the harder it's gonna be. So what I'm gonna try to do is prepare the kayak as much as possible before I try to get back in after I've fallen out. So we're gonna see how this goes. There we go. Okay. Now I'm gonna get my gear out. I'm gonna pump out the water. Yeah. Freaking got the camera. All right, well, that is done. It was just as hard as it was last time. Lots of things I learned this time. The first thing I learned is to get my paddle float out right away because I was using it to help elevate me a little bit. It wasn't perfect, but it definitely helped. So there's different types of paddle floats. Some are inflatable where you'd blow them up, and then I have, my paddle float is just like a piece of foam. And obviously it takes up more space, but it definitely helped keep me elevated, and it did seem to work really well on my paddle. So I would definitely recommend this. This one is by NRS, and I would say this probably helped me maybe the most, the paddle float. So this definitely is important to have a paddle float, I would for sure say. As for the float bags, I don't think the float bags helped at all, in my opinion. Having done this with float bags and without float bags, it did not seem like it was any easier having the float bags. I mean, I would never say don't have float bags because, you know, safety, but I don't think the float bags really did anything. And then the bilge pump, that was hard because I was, you know, in the water, and like to lift my arm up, it took so much energy to do that, and it was really hard to do. So what actually ended up working really well was using that cup to take the water out. So I'm definitely gonna get a cup to have with my safety gear to be able to get water out like that, because it made it way easier than using the pump for the majority of the water. And then for the rest of the water, I was able to use the pump, and then I was able to pump it out a little bit more when I got back in the kayak. So I would for sure say have a cup. I would say everything I had for safety was necessary. Again, the float bags is the only thing that I'm kind of like, I don't know, but I would say the paddle float for sure, the paddle leash, I kept my paddle with me, and the bilge pump. Again, if I'm doing this, I'm probably gonna have a buddy with me, and they would be able to really help me probably empty out the water over me having to empty out the water. I do have an Oru lake that I want to practice with as well. I think it will be just as fun as this was. And yes, that was sarcasm. But I'm glad I attempted this and was able to get back in without having to actually have assistance this time. So that was nice. But yeah, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you have a great day.